Original post. I'm a 33M and my wife Lena, 31F, has always had a talent for owning rooms. She's electric when she talks. Eyes locked, hands illustrating every sentence, voice landing on the exact note that makes people lean in. I used to love that about her. Now it's the thing I replay in my head at 3 a.m. The thing that split our friend group cleanly down the middle. 2 Saturdays ago, June 14th, 7:40 p.m., we were at a friend's birthday dinner. There were maybe 20 of us spread across a long table under those warm restaurant bulbs that make everyone look a little softer. Toasts were happening. Laughter was easy. I felt normal for the first time in weeks. Then Lena stood up, tapped a glass and said, "I have something to share. It's early, so please keep it close, but..." She pressed her hand, delicately, on her stomach. She paused long enough that the table registered the gesture before the words. A murmur rolled down the line of faces. "We're expecting." People exploded. Chairs scraped. A friend screamed. I got this wave of hugs I didn't know where to put my arms in. Part of me was genuinely confused. Lena and I hadn't been trying. We'd been, frankly, on a rough patch and carefully using protection. Another part of me clocked her eyes. Not soft, not searching for me. I was audience, not partner. And then, like a second act she'd rehearsed, she added, "We'll be okay. We're working through some things." Her voice broke, just enough. I found messages from other women, and I know people will judge, but I'm choosing grace. Our baby deserves that. Silence cupped the table. Then, like dominoes, disclaimers, we don't know the whole story. Reassurances, this is a safe space. And the sharp intake of attention that comes when someone puts the word baby on the table and the word cheating next to it. I didn't say a thing. I didn't stand up or deny or make a spectacle. I swallowed a mouthful of water that tasted like steel and told myself to breathe through my nose. I could feel social oxygen drain away from my chair. People shifted their bodies so their shoulders faced her. Not me. A friend I've known since college, Julian, shot me a warning look like, "Don't. Not here." The night reset around her news. The birthday cake landed with a thud that felt like punctuation at the wrong place in a sentence. When the check came, I paid my portion, hugged the host, and stepped into the humid street. Lena left with 2 friends who flanked her like bookends. I took a rideshare home. I sat in the dark living room until my eyes adjusted to the outline of the plant we keep forgetting to water. At 10:56 p.m., Lena texted, "You okay? That was a lot. Please don't make this harder than it needs to be. I'm exhausted. Clinic Tuesday at 2. We can talk after." I replied, "Okay." I didn't sleep. I replayed every tap of her glass like a metronome. 2 beats for pregnancy. For beats 4, he cheated. The timeline didn't sing. It clangered. We'd been in couples therapy. We'd been careful. The last time intimacy wasn't careful was months ago, before we hit pause for medical reasons related to her medication. The math didn't carry. The thing you should know is that I'm not a shouter. I code for a living. I like logs, sequences, proofs. I also know that public denials in the moment, when emotions are running on rocket fuel, don't land as clarifications. They land as attacks. You don't win a room by fact-checking a sob. So I did the only thing that felt like control. I decided to say nothing until I had verifiable facts. I could eat the hit to my reputation for a week. I could be the villain in a group chat for a week. What I couldn't do was get drawn into a spinning argument where the only evidence is who cries better. Sunday morning, I made coffee and pretended to scroll news. Lena slept until 10, floated into the kitchen in an oversized sweater, kissed my temple like a woman who had not announced war 12 hours earlier, and said, "We'll talk Tuesday, okay? I'm not ready to rehash it." Then she showed me her phone screen for a fleeting second. An ultrasound image in grayscale, glossy black border. 8 weeks. We got this. She closed the screen quickly. I asked to hold the image. She tucked the phone to her chest and said, "The clinic asked me not to share prints yet. Liability, you know." I nodded. "We'll talk Tuesday." The moment she left the room, I felt stupid for not asking a single follow-up question. 8 weeks. 8 weeks from June 14th puts conception mid-April. In mid-April, we were sleeping in separate rooms during a reset we'd agreed on in therapy. A 2-week window to focus on daily routines and not touch the hard topics. When we did have sex again, we used protection. She was also on medication she said suppresses ovulation, though I'm not a doctor, so that's a shrug in court. By noon, my phone was a museum of opinions. Ally texted, "We love you, but what Lena said last night was heavy. I support her. You need to own your stuff. My sister. I will always be your sister. But if there's a baby, I'm team baby. Julian, call me." Privately, I called Julian. He picked up on the first ring. "Tell me you didn't," he said. "I didn't," I said, and I heard the pleading tone in my own voice like I was convincing myself. He sighed. "Look, man, optics. She timed it. People will defend the pregnant person even if it's fiction. You know that. She said you had DMs. I don't. Or I have friends. We all have DMs. Not those. Then don't argue, Meta. Bring receipts." "I'm working on it," I said, and I was surprised to hear I meant it. Cracks in the story started out hairline. The ultrasound sonogram she flashed was crisp in a way that looked like ads more than medical. The text overlay looked generic. I told myself I was biased. People get excited. Clinics use templates. I opened my laptop anyway. There's a feature most people don't use where you can search by image instead of words. I paused the breakfast conversation in my head, mirrored the 2 seconds I'd seen on her phone from memory, and started searching for 8-week sonogram curved border caption. Within 5 minutes, I found a public blog post from 2017 using the same exact image, down to a tiny crescent-shaped speck in the upper quadrant that looked like lint on a scanner bed. The blog wasn't our clinic. The watermark in the lower right, faint, transparent, matched the ghost line I thought I saw on Lena's phone. I didn't take a victory lap. People borrow images all the time, sometimes because they're excited and don't have the print yet. I made a folder on my desktop called Tuesday. I created a text file labeled Timeline, MD. I wrote, June 14th, SAT. Announcement at 7:40 p.m. 8 weeks, conception mid-April, we were on pause. Used protection after. Image, potential stock, 2017 blog, faint watermark match. I took screenshots. I saved the blog link. I took a breath. Her clinic Tuesday at 2 texts sat in my notifications like a calendar invite I never accepted. If she really had an appointment, there would be something else to triangulate. We live in a building that logs fob entries for the garage gate and elevator due to a recent break-in in March. All residents received an email about increased logging and how to request your own access log if you had security concerns. 3 weeks ago, a package of mine had gone missing. I'd already filed a request for my unit's entries during that window. The building manager, Donald, is a stickler, but if you give him a reason, he gives you data. I drafted a polite email. Hi, Donald. Yesterday, Lena mentioned she's worried about someone following her into the building. Can you pull our unit's fob activity for Tuesday between 1:30 to 4:30 p.m.? Also, the elevator car logs for those hours? I'm trying to make sure our usual schedule lines up so she isn't alone at odd times. Thanks, I sent it. I kept it about safety. It wasn't a lie. At 2:07 p.m. Tuesday, Lena texted a photo. A waiting room. A plant in the corner. Neutral art. Running late. Love you. I replied with a thumbs up because I didn't know how to say anything else. At 2:26, Donald emailed me back. Attached. Let me know if you need anything else. The spreadsheet showed Lena's fob used the garage gate at 1:52 p.m., elevator to 11 at 1:55, elevator from 11 at 2:03, mailroom access at 2:09, elevator to 11 at 2:11. We live on 7. The clinic Lena mentioned is across town, minimum 20 minutes at that hour. I copied those lines into Timeline. MD and flagged them. Does not match clinic claim. I stared at the screen until my vision did the snow thing it does when you forget to blink. There was a world where she stopped by home before leaving and my timestamps were catching a pit stop. There was a world where she went to a different clinic closer by. There was also the world where she wasn't at a clinic at all. At 3:03 p.m., she texted done. Exhausted. Nap time. I typed and deleted 6 drafts ranging from how'd it go? To which doctor? To can we be transparent with each other? I sent nothing. I added 3:03 p.m. done. Text to the file. I wrote no additional medical info offered. That evening she was bright. She made a rice bowl and ate 2 bites. Announced she was nauseous and took a shower. When she came back, she asked if I could sleep on the couch. Smells were making her sick. I said yes. In the dark, with the AC unit clunking 2 rooms away, I scrolled the dinner guest list in my head and marked who had hugged me goodbye awkwardly, who had avoided my eyes entirely, who had whispered to her with long hands on her forearm. By Wednesday, the group chat had divided itself like a cell. The original Friday drinks thread had gone quiet. A new thread with an almost but not quite identical name appeared with me in it. Friday drinks, all. I clicked. Messages were neutral logistics. I only knew it wasn't the full group because Julian screenshotted a different thread, Friday drinks, safe, and sent it to me with a single line. For context, the screenshot showed Ally saying, he's gonna make her feel crazy. Classic. We need to keep her safe. Another friend. No one invite him to Luke's thing. Boundaries. A third. If she wants to forgive him because of the baby, we support that. She's so brave. I didn't cry. I did the disassociated cousin of crying. I washed every dish in the sink, then scrubbed the already clean stove, then reorganized the drawer with the takeout menus like I was preparing a crime scene for forensic photography. Then I opened Timeline. MD again and added social fallout as a bullet. Exclusion from Luke's party, June 21st. Group leaning toward protect Lena. Narrative fixed as he cheated. I needed to see the harm to remember why I was not responding with an impulsive press conference. Thursday brought Exhibit C without me trying. We have an old iPad in the kitchen that lived its previous life as our recipe screen. Sticky with olive oil at the corners. Screen burned from a chili recipe site. It's signed into Lena's iMessage because she uses it to video call her sister while she cooks. At 11:14 a.m., it chirped. A message from Mara Herb. We good for this weekend? I'm still nervous about the ultrasound thing. Lena, relax. It's fine. Everyone's on my side. He won't do anything. Mara. But what if he reverse image searches? I froze. Then another ping. Lena, he doesn't think like that. He's conflict avoidant. Worst case, we say it's a template. Mara. And the clinic? Lena. I told you. Tuesday at 2 was clinic. Mara. Where were you actually? Lena. Stop. Not in texts. Mara. Sorry. Love you. I didn't take photos. It felt like eavesdropping. Even though the rectangle openly announced their conversation right there. Instead, I opened my notes and recorded the quotes verbatim with timestamps and the device they appeared on. Then I wrote a paragraph under ethics reminding future me. Do not access her private accounts. Only log what is passively displayed on shared devices we both use. Do not take content out of context. Do not edit. I might have been writing a love letter to the version of myself that wanted to stay clean. That night I asked Lena if we could sit down on Saturday with a couple of friends present. Just to clarify what we're telling people, I said, and I choked on the neutrality. She stared at me for a long beat, then shrugged. Fine, but I don't want to be ambushed. Neither do I said. Who? She asked. Julian, and maybe your sister if she's willing. Her sister, Claire, is one of the few people who can slow Lena down without making her double down. Not Claire, Lena said too fast. Why not? She's busy, and she doesn't need the stress. Then pick someone else you trust, I said. 2 people. Neutral. She chewed her lip. Ally and Tori, she said at last, and I felt something in my chest sink. Ally was the loudest voice in the Protect Lena chorus. Tori is kind but follows Ally's current like a leaf. Saturday, 5 p.m. At Tori's, Lena added, as if logistics were the thorn here. I texted Julian and asked if he could come early, a separate coffee at 4, just to put our cards on the table. He said yes. Then I sat with my laptop and started to stitch together the timeline into a narrative that wouldn't feel like an attack. Not bullet points barked in a courtroom. Facts quietly in order. Pictures where pictures helped. I refined the ultrasound piece. I found 3 more sites using that exact image, all uploaded years before Lena's alleged appointment. I hovered over the lower right corner of the photo she'd flashed me in memory. The watermark on the blog image read, Bright Start Education. Not a medical clinic at all. I blew up the image until the grain looked like a tile mosaic. There it was, the crescent, the lint, the same curvature on the top border. I wrote, Exhibit A, sonogram image appears stock. Sources. Links. Watermark remnant suggests reuse. Not definitive proof of lying. Consistent with template. But red flag. I refined the building log piece. I added my email to Donald, his response, the exact timestamps. I wrote, Exhibit B, building logs show presence in building during alleged clinic time, 1:52 to 2:11 p.m. Travel time to clinic incompatible with at clinic at 2, text. Needs clarification. And the messages on the iPad. Exhibit C messages displayed on shared device suggest awareness of potential reverse image search. Reluctance to text about actual whereabouts. Not in texts. I made a note to myself in bold. Do not accuse beyond what Exhibit C literally shows. I slept maybe 3 hours. I dreamed about taps on a glass that never stopped. Friday morning, my sister called. I'm mad at you, she said by way of hello. For what? I asked, too tired to armor up. For folding into this narrative. For giving her the room. For acting like staying quiet is noble when it's just... She swallowed. Cowardly. I bit back the million ways I wanted to defend myself. Come Saturday, I said instead. If you still think I'm being a coward after that, I'll own it. She didn't promise she would. She did promise not to tell our mother anything. Small mercies. By Friday night, I had printed a thin packet. Not a dossier, God, no, but 3 pages. Timeline on page 1. Exhibit A and B screenshots annotated simply on pages 2 and 3. I wasn't going to hand it to anyone. I just needed to see it on paper to make sure it read like I intended. A narrative, not a trap. Saturday at 4, I met Julian at the cafe near Tori's apartment. We sat outside because the air was doing that warm, forgiving thing it does just before sunset. I slid the packet across the table. I'm not giving this to them, I said preemptively. I'm not trying to humiliate her. If people ask me, what makes you think? I want to answer with nouns. Julian read without interrupting. When he finished, he exhaled. This is clean, he said. It's not bulletproof. She can still claim template. She can still claim the building logs were quick ins and outs before the clinic. But it makes the story wobble. I don't need a win, I said. I need the wobble. Enough space for people to consider that this might not be what she said it is. Why not just ask her privately? He asked. I did, I said quietly. She offered no details except 8 weeks and Tuesday at 2. She framed me publicly. If I ask for specifics alone, those specifics will morph later and I'll have no witnesses. Julian nodded. Okay, then today you don't accuse. You ask questions, show the mismatch, and ask for clarity. No adjectives. No, you always. You keep it surgical. I nodded. We walked the 2 blocks to Tori's. I could feel my pulse in the back of my neck. Tori's place was staged like a neutral ground. Throw blankets. A candle that smelled like abstract citrus. The word gather on a wooden sign. Tori hugged us both. Ally was already there, perched like a prosecutor in a cardigan. Lena walked in last. She looked fragile in a way that would trigger protection in anyone with a pulse. I had to remind myself that fragility is not a synonym for truth. We sat. Tori made tea as if tea could fix this. Lena started to speak, but I raised a hand, palm open. Before we start, I said, keeping my voice level, I want to be clear. I'm not going to raise my voice. I'm not going to attack you. I am going to ask questions and share a few things that don't line up for me. You're free to correct me. Ally cut in. We're not here to interrogate a pregnant woman. We're here. Tori said gently, eyes on both of us. To make sure we're not carrying a story that hurts the wrong person. Lena's eyes flicked to me. Fine, she said. Ask. I didn't pull out the packet. I kept my hands on my knees. You said 8 weeks on Saturday. That puts conception mid-April. In mid-April, we were paused. We used protection afterward. That doesn't make pregnancy impossible, but the odds are not high. So I asked myself what else I could check without intruding on your medical privacy. I turned to Tori. Our building logs residence fobs because of the break-in in March. Residents can request their own activity for safety reviews. I described the email I sent and the response I got, naming only the hours. The logs show Lena's key in the garage at 1:52 p.m. Tuesday, elevator to 11, back down, mailroom, back up. That overlaps the time she said she was at the clinic across town. Lena's chin lifted a fraction. I stopped home first, she said. I grabbed my insurance card. Okay, I said. That's possible. I let the quiet sit. And the ultrasound photo you showed me Sunday had a faint watermark that looks like an education site, not a clinic. I did a reverse image search and found the same image used in 2017, 2018 multiple times. Maybe your clinic uses templates. But if that's the case, can we get the actual report from Tuesday's visit? Redacting whatever you need to feel safe. Ally bristled. She doesn't need to prove her medical status to you like she's on trial. I'm not asking for her HCG numbers, I said softly. I'm asking because she attached an accusation to the pregnancy in front of our friends. Right now, the story is he cheated and she's pregnant. And those two facts have been braided together in a way that sets the entire room. If the pregnancy is real, I will be the first to apologize for my suspicion and to support Lena. If it isn't, I need people to stop crucifying me. Lena's mouth worked. I could see the wheels. Anger, strategy, shame, ticking and catching. Her voice, when it came, was thin around the edges. I used a placeholder image because I didn't want to share the real one publicly. That's my right. It is, I said. And the logs. I stopped home. You already said that. Okay, I said again. Then when's the next appointment? I'll drive you. We'll both hear the doctor. We can stop this now. Ally leaned forward. This is coercive. Tori put a hand on Ally's knee. Ally, she said. Let them talk. Lena swallowed. Next Thursday, 2 p.m., she said after a long beat. Eyes on the middle distance. If you want to come, fine. Thank you, I said. It was the first unambiguous forward step we'd made all week. It also gave me 5 more days to decide exactly how to handle what I'd already seen on the iPad and in the logs and in the watermark. We ended awkwardly. Hugs happened like formalities. Ally whispered in Lena's ear by the door. Tori squeezed my arm. A small apology for her friend's heat. Julian walked me to the elevator and said nothing until the doors closed. Then he said, You kept it clean. Did I? I asked, staring at the metal rectangle where my face looked warped and tired. You asked for clarity, he said. Now either she shows up to a clinic with you next Thursday and you get reality, or she doesn't and that's reality too. When I got home, the iPad was dark on the counter. I flipped it face down, like covering a mirror in a house of mourning. That night I wrote this. I don't want a chorus. I don't want a team. I want a version of the truth we can all stand in without drowning. I know how this sub works. I know you don't owe me belief any more than my friends do. But if you were me, if your wife had announced a pregnancy with a side of he cheated, if she'd flashed a possibly stock sonogram, if the building logs contradicted her clinic timeline, if your friend group had formed a half circle around her, would you do what I'm doing? Would you stay quiet long enough to gather proof and then ask questions calmly with witnesses? Or would you have stood up at the restaurant and blown it all up on the spot? I keep thinking about that plant in the living room and how it leans toward the light even when we forget to water it. I'm trying to lean toward the light. I don't know if that makes me the A*** hole or just a man who is afraid of making things worse. Update 1, Thursday, June 19th, morning. I promised I'd keep this clean. Facts first, feelings second. That's been harder in practice than in theory, but here's what I have between Saturday night and this morning, the day of the appointment Lena says I can attend. 1. Exhibit A, the sonogram image. Stronger match than I expected. What started as a hunch turned into something I could show an ordinary human without a magnifying glass. The grayscale image Lena flashed Sunday had 3 quirks I could reconstruct from memory. A crescent-shaped speck in the upper quadrant, a faint diagonal scratch near the bottom border, and a caption field with rounded corners. I was worried memory would be unreliable, so I did something embarrassingly nerdy. I mocked the layout from memory in Keynote: border, caption bar, circles marking where the speck and scratch had been, and set it next to the images I'd found online. One of those images, a 2017 What to Expect at 8 Weeks blog, was not just similar. It was identical down to a pixel-level lint pattern. I exported both the blog image and a high-contrast version into an image editor and overlaid them at 50% opacity. The lint arc and diagonal scratch perfectly aligned. Unless multiple clinics share identical lint and scratches, this wasn't a template with similar art. It was the same file. I printed 2 copies, one normal, one with the overlay grid lines faintly visible, and scribbled the source URLs in the margins. I still don't intend to wave paper in anyone's face. But if I'm asked, why did you think it was stock? I want an answer that isn't, because I felt like it. 2. Exhibit B, building logs. Corroboration and a possible explanation Lena might give. Donald, building manager, sent me the FOB activity summary for Tuesday, which I mentioned: garage gate at 1:52 p.m., elevator to 11 at 1:55, back down at 2:03, mailroom at 2:09, back up at 2:11. Yesterday, I asked for the camera snapshots that our system captures when someone badges into the mailroom. We have a little fisheye cam by the mailroom door since the March break-in. Donald said he could only release images of me or common areas with faces blurred unless the other party consented. He blurred faces and sent 4 stills. At 2:08 and 56 seconds p.m., a figure in Lena's sweater, distinct sleeve pattern, stepping into the mailroom. At 2:10 and 41 seconds p.m., same sweater exiting with a small padded envelope. Faces blurred, yes, but her bag. A canvas tote with a purple paint stain. Gave it away. It's ours. She's carrying it in frame too. There is an innocent story Lena could tell. That she swung by home, grabbed an insurance card, picked up a delivery and left. Maybe she meant clinic at 2 as shorthand for on my way. The problem is her 3:03 p.m. text. Done. Exhausted. Nap time. Arrived less than an hour after the 2:11 elevator backup. The clinic she named is 20 minutes away without traffic. Check-in plus waiting plus the actual ultrasound, if one happened. Plus payment doesn't reconcile with done by 3:03 if she's still in our building at 2:11. Could the appointment have been something else? Maybe, but that's not what she said. 3. Exhibit C. Messages on the shared iPad. More context without new invasions. I have not opened, hacked, or guessed passwords. The iPad chimed again Wednesday while I was making coffee. It was the same contact Mara with the leafy emoji. I took a deep breath and did not photograph anything. I wrote down a few lines with timestamps in my notes app while they were on screen, because the content wasn't "we're going to the farmer's market." It was schema building. Mara, Wednesday, 9:17 a.m. You're sure about tonight? If he asks questions again, you'll spiral. Lena, he thinks he's building a case. Let him. I'm not texting details anymore. Mara, he said he wants witnesses Saturday. You good with Ally plus Tori? Lena, yes. Ally won't let him dogpile me. I told him next Thursday 2 p.m. for the clinic. He can sit there and feel small. Mara, what about the other thing? Lena, not in texts. I know, not in texts is not a smoking gun. It's also exactly what you say when the thing you're referring to can't survive daylight. The 2 reads here are obvious. Either Lena is protecting her privacy because I've become the kind of husband who catalogs her life, uncharitable but possible. Or she and Mara are keeping a parallel narrative they don't want typed. 4. Joint card transactions. The receipt trail disagrees with the clinic story. We have a joint credit card for household expenses. I pulled our June statement in the bank app, my login, joint account, This is not a breach. On Tuesday, there were 2 transactions in Lena's Apple Wallet at 2:15 p.m. and 2:22 p.m. $4.19 at our building cafe, downstairs, and $7.12 at the pharmacy on the corner. If she was racing to make a 2 p.m. ultrasound across town, stopping for an iced tea and cough drops on the way seems casual. On its own, this is nothing. In context, it looks like someone who wasn't in a hurry to be anywhere but home. 5. Timeline cleanup, the 8-week math, and the April pause. I pulled our therapy calendar to make sure I wasn't inventing dates. We started the 2-week pause and reset on April 8th. We recorded no intimacy as an explicit agreement during that window. Our therapist asks us to be dorky and write down agreements so we can stop arguing about memory. We resumed intimacy on April 25th with protection. The ultrasound image she claimed was 8 weeks would date to conception around April 20-ish. That lands dead center in the pause. I also checked the app we used to track medication changes, Lena's idea months ago. It helped both of us remember dosage shifts. On April 11th, she started a new medication a doctor said could interfere with ovulation. On May 2nd, she discussed side effects in our therapist's office. Again, not proof of impossible, just proof of unlikely. How I prepared for today? The appointment. I wrote a script. That sounds robotic. It's actually a survival tool. Every time I've tried to wing it, I've either apologized for existing or sharpened my tone without meaning to. So I wrote what I will say at the clinic and what I will not say. I will say to the receptionist, "I'm here with my wife, Lena. She invited me to attend her 2 p.m. appointment. I'm her support person." Or I will not ask staff to disclose medical records without Lena's consent. If we are called back, I will ask Lena, not the nurse. "Is it okay with you if I'm here?" I will watch for small tells, if the appointment exists, if the provider greets her by name like a returning patient, if there's an intake form dated today. If Lena tries to pivot, they don't allow support people. "I don't feel well, let's reschedule." I will say, "Okay, we can reschedule together." Then I'll propose a date while we stand there so it's not an airy future. After the appointment, if there is one, I will not demand printouts. I will ask, in the car, "Can we agree on what we're telling friends so we stop harming each other?" I also wrote a second script for the alternative reality where there is no appointment, where we never check in, where the office has no record, where she forgets the clinic name and points to a building that's leasing. That script looks like, "I'm not going to shame you, but we can't keep telling people a story that makes me a villain if it's not true. I'm going to ask Ally and Tori to pause group narratives until we have clarity." I shared both scripts with Julian this morning. He said they sound like a man who still loves his wife. I don't know if that's a compliment or a setup for more pain, more social fallout, and one unexpected ally. Luke, whose party I was uninvited from, texted me last night at 11:12 p.m. "I don't know what to believe. I'm not going to play referee. But if the pregnancy isn't real, you need to detonate that bomb fast because people are moving money and time around you in their heads." I asked him what moving money meant. He said Ally had started planning a shower for support, gift cards for groceries, a meal train, babysitting rotations. It's not that I resent people organizing kindness. It's that the kindness is a scaffolding holding up a story that's crushing me. The unexpected ally was Claire, Lena's sister, who called me using a random number and spoke in a whisper. "I can't be seen picking a side," she said. "But I don't like this." She's not texting me details either. If there's a baby, I will love that baby. If there isn't, she needs to stop before it eats her. "Can you come today?" I asked. "No." She'll read it as betrayal. "But if you end up sitting in a parking lot outside a non-appointment, call me. I'll be the person who answers." I thanked her. After we hung up, I cried for the first time since Saturday. Quietly, in the bathroom with the fan on, because even the offer to answer a phone felt like someone throwing me a rope. Doubts about myself, because I don't want to turn into a detective novel protagonist. I've replayed the restaurant scene 1,000 times and tested alternate choices. There is a version where I stood up and said, "I don't accept the premise." And then the table dissolved into tears and accusations and the birthday cake would have never been cut. There is a version where I clinked the glass too and said, congrats to us, and then took the fight home. Both versions end with me looking like a monster to someone. I've also interrogated my bias. Do I want this to be fake because the alternative is that I've become the man who cheated and forgot? Memory is slippery under shame. So I did a gut check with the only person who has no incentive to flatter me, our therapist. I emailed and asked for a brief phone consult, not to litigate, just to ask if my current approach, silence, evidence, calm confrontation, sounded like control or cowardice. She called back and said, silence can be punitive or it can be strategic. The line is in your intention and your openness. If you're staying silent to watch her twist, that's cruelty. If you're staying silent because the truth cannot be found in a screaming match, that's restraint. Today you sound restrained. I am writing that down not to win internet points, but so I can reread it if things go sideways at 2 p.m. What I'm worried she'll do. Lena is not stupid. She can feel when stories wobble. If the clinic exists and we go, the wobble becomes irrelevant. Reality will be what it is. If the clinic doesn't exist or the pregnancy isn't real, I expect the following. The pivot to privacy. I don't have to prove my body to you. True. Also not a license to smear me. Change clinics. I switched providers this morning, conveniently rendering today moot. Diffuse with illness. I'm too sick to go in. Weaponize witnesses. You're abusing me by forcing me to perform medical status in front of people. I've prepared one sentence for each pivot that isn't a trap. You don't have to prove your body to me. I need us to stop telling people contradictory things about our life. Okay. What's the new provider's name? Let's pick a time right now. Okay. Let's reschedule together. Tomorrow. I'll clear my afternoon. I'm not asking you to perform. I'm asking us to stop performing a story in public that may not be true. If she shows up and it's real, I will read the comments that called me calculated and eat the humble pie hot. 2 tiny details that might matter later. 1. The padded envelope in the mailroom stills? It was from an online marketplace. We get those all the time. Yesterday a listing went live in Lena's name for a gender reveal party kit. Pink/blue confetti? Balloons. The whole saccharine circus. That's not damning. Plenty of people buy and then cancel. But it suggests not only a pregnancy story, but a production timeline. 2. Our downstairs neighbor, Mrs. Klein, stopped me by the elevator and asked in her foghorn voice, "How's the mommy-to-be?" She said Lena had knocked Monday evening to borrow a sugar jar and told her she couldn't hold anything down. Monday, not Tuesday. I smiled and said, "We're figuring it out," which is the truest sentence I've said all week. What happens next today? It's 10:41 a.m. as I finish this. I'm driving us at 1:20 p.m. unless Lena texts at 1:15 that she already went early. I'll bring nothing but the car keys and a water bottle. I won't bring the papers. If we sit in an exam room and hear a heartbeat, I will be the one weeping into the scratchy tissue. I promise you that. I will also apologize to Lena for my suspicion and to our friends for my absence. If we sit in a parking lot outside a closed suite and Lena tells me I'm controlling, I will call Claire and ask her to meet us at the apartment so we are not alone with whatever comes out of Lena's mouth next. Either way, I'm done living in maybe. I'll update after 2 p.m. when there is something that isn't a spreadsheet or a screenshot but a fact with a pulse. If you're reading to judge me, I get it. That's the sport here. If you're reading to tell me I'm a fool, I probably am. But I would rather be a fool who tried to be fair than a clever man who set fire to a life because a room clapped at the right time. Would you have kept waiting for the appointment? Or would you have confronted earlier with what I already had? Update 2 Thursday, June 19th, late evening. Quick facts first. The clinic. I drove Lena to the OB office she'd named. At the desk, the receptionist couldn't find her 2 p.m. appointment. "Are you a new patient?" she asked. Lena said she'd switched providers last minute. The receptionist offered to register her and proposed next Thursday at 3:10 p.m., emailing an intake link. We left with an appointment card but no exam. In the car, Lena said she'd panicked about the ultrasound and the wand. I said I'd drive her next week and would wait in the lobby if she wanted. She nodded. We went home, That's the entire medical portion of today. The conversation with witnesses, Saturday, June 21st, 5 p.m. at Tori's. Present, me, Lena, Ally, her closest friend, Tori, neutral, and Julian, my friend. Tori asked for calm. I kept my hands empty, no printouts, no photos. I summarized the timeline. Lena's 8 weeks announcement, June 14th. The sonogram she showed me Sunday. Clinic at 2 Tuesday. Building logs say she was in our building then. And today's reschedule. Then I said the two things that don't line up for me. 1. The ultrasound image Lena flashed Sunday appears pixel identical to a blog image from years ago. Lint mark, border scratch. 2. Tuesday's fob/elevator/mailroom timestamps don't reconcile with done. 3:03 p.m. across town. I told Lena I wasn't asking for numbers or private records. Only clarity, because she announced the pregnancy and tied it to he cheated, which detonated my reputation. Ally bristled about interrogating a pregnant woman. Tori asked us to stay in the lane. Facts and corrections. Lena first said the image was a placeholder because she didn't want to share the real one. I asked, as neutrally as I could, "Do you have a real one?" Long pause. "I was going to," she said. "It's early." Tori asked the only question that mattered. "Lena, are you pregnant right now?" A beat. Then no. Followed by a rush. She thought she was late. She wanted a reset. She wanted people on her side so I'd show up again. She admitted she'd told herself a story that made her the wrong party because she felt like the wronged party. I asked to clear the other half. Did I cheat? Lena said she found late-night DMs with a coworker, memes during midnight releases. Then she added something I didn't expect in front of Ally. Back in April, during our agreed pause, she went to Nate's, neighbor on 11. They drank wine, watched a documentary, and kissed once. She told her sister and friend, felt disgusting after, and made the math balance by deciding I must also be doing something. No theatrics from me. I said, using a baby as a shield made a public fire I can't step over. Then I asked for two things. Immediate corrections. Stop telling people I cheated. Stop telling people there's a pregnancy. Not it's early, not maybe. The truth. A space. I'll stay with my sister for a week. Separate sessions with our therapist before any joint one. No packet sharing, no public humiliation. Ally said she'd pause the meal train and text the group. Tori offered to write a brief summary of what was agreed so no one remembers a different version tomorrow. Lena said she'd inform Ally and Mara. I added Luke and anyone else planning support. I promised to keep it quiet, no screenshots, no group blast. Just direct corrections if asked. We didn't hug goodbye. Julian told me I'd kept it surgical. In the elevator he added, right amount of bone. After, I texted Claire, Lena's sister not pregnant. I'm leaving for a week. She said she'd check on Lena. A number I didn't have, Nate, texted, I'm sorry. I didn't reply. I packed 2 shirts and my laptop, left a note with when I'd stop by for mail and went to my sister's. We made soup we didn't eat. I slept on her couch and woke at 3:11 a.m. anyway. Where things stand, pregnancy, not real. Today produced a reschedule, not care. A cheating accusation. Retracted in front of witnesses. No evidence I cheated. A boundary violations on her side. A kiss with Nate during the therapy pause. Weaponizing a pregnancy story to fix a social narrative. And next steps. Corrections to friends. Pause on public storytelling. 1 week apart. Therapist individually. Decide from there. I know some of you will say I should have ended it the second the receptionist couldn't find her. Others will call even a week apart too soft. All I can say is I did what I said I'd do. No yelling, no ambushes. Facts only, witnesses present. I'm not a hero for that. It's the bare minimum when truth and reputation are on the table. Final update to come after I talk to our therapist and handle the boring admin, keys, bills, meal train unwinding. For now, a question because that's how I started. Would you have handled it this way, clinic, calm confrontation, then space, or cut it off in the lobby the moment there was no record? Final update 2 weeks later. I promised one last update after things settled into facts instead of adrenaline. Here it is. Therapy and boundaries. I met with our therapist alone the Monday after I moved to my sister Maya's. I gave her the short version. The non-appointment, the group conversation, the admission that there was no pregnancy and that the cheating claim was a story Lena used to make pain make sense. The therapist's take was plain. Compassion does not require you to co-author a false narrative. Accountability is not cruelty. She asked what I wanted that was inside my control. My list was simple. 1. Public corrections to undo the reputational damage. 2. A clean, boring week of separation to let the dust fall. 3. A decision tree for what happens next. She also asked me to stop living like a forensic auditor. Archive the evidence folder, she said. You've crossed the river. You don't need the bridge anymore. I dragged the Tuesday folder into an archive and shut the lid. Corrections and fallout. Lena kept her word the next day. She sent a short message to the 2 group chats, the all and, yes, the safe, and to a handful of people she'd spoken to privately. I need to correct something, I said. I am not pregnant. I also told people that OP cheated. That wasn't true. I'm sorry for putting anyone in the middle. No justification, no extra adjectives. Ally followed with, meal train paused. If you sent a gift card, DM me and I'll reverse it. She didn't apologize to me directly, but she did the admin, which is its own kind of admission. Luke texted me separately. I was wrong to exile you on hearsay. Invite back on the table, no strings. I declined the party. I'm not ready to be a redemption arc over Rose. Tori sent a neutral one-pager to the same group, with everyone's permission. What was said, what was corrected, what the plan is, space. That document kept the story from evolving in retellings. 3 friends called to apologize without the coward's asterisk. If. A few sent foggy not apologies. Sorry for the situation, which is like apologizing to the weather. It's fine. I don't need a parade. Nate and the 11th floor. Nate texted twice more. I'm sorry. I'll keep my distance. I replied once. Please have no contact with either of us for now. He agreed. I asked the building office to not share my fob data again unless there's a security incident. I don't want to live by spreadsheets. The rescheduled appointment. Thursday the 26th came and went. In the morning, Lena emailed the clinic to cancel. I need to postpone indefinitely. She didn't forward me the message. Tori mentioned it because Lena asked her to ride along, in case. There was no ride. That closed the medical loop without another scene in a lobby. The week apart. The quiet was loud. I worked, cooked badly, watered Maya's plants, and tried not to rehearse speeches to imaginary juries. On day 4, Lena emailed, not texted, asking if we could meet in the park, public and low stakes. We sat on opposite ends of a bench and talked like people who are trying not to make new damage. She said the word lie out loud without flinching. She said she was ashamed of how much she liked the attention and how fast it made her feel safe. I said I was ashamed of how much I liked being right. We agreed to split accounts for now, exchange a few house items like diplomats, and not date anyone while we're in limbo. We also agreed to individual therapy for a month before deciding on any joint work. Where we landed, for now, we're separated. No dramatic paper served on a doorstep, no cinematic suitcase scene. Just keys handed over with a quiet thank you, a Google Doc titled Logistics, and 2 people who will not be telling competing stories at parties. If we reconcile, it will be because the day-to-day starts to trust itself again, not because a room clapped for either of us. If we don't, I want the ending to be boring and kind. What changed in the friend group? People recalibrated. Tori is Switzerland and will remain so. Julian has the kind of loyalty that doesn't require me to be perfect. Ally is complicated. She texted a week later. I projected my stuff. I'm sorry for adding heat. That's as close to clean as it's going to get, and I accepted. Luke and I grabbed a coffee. We talked about sports and work for 20 minutes before either of us touched the landmine, which felt like healing. What I learned, and what I'm still bad at. Silence can be a weapon or a boundary. Mine was mostly a boundary. I'm glad I didn't do a restaurant table showdown, even if it cost me a week of being the villain in other people's heads. I'm also glad I asked questions with witnesses. Truth sticks better when more than one pair of ears hears it. I am still bad at not turning pain into a spreadsheet. I'm working on that. The plant on our windowsill is at Maya's now. It leans toward a different window and seems fine. Thank you to the strangers who told me to keep it clean, and to the ones who told me to grow a spine. Both were useful in their way. I can't give you a triumphant moral, just a life that feels a little more honest than it did 2 weeks ago.